We all set? Ready to roll? Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the July meeting of Information Technology and Communication. Join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. Do we have any additions or changes to the agenda? All right. So moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposition? All right, on to the minutes. Okay, moved and supported. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Seeing none, we'll move on to limited public comment. With our limited public, boy, can we pan the crowd? All right, seeing no public comment, let's move on to the Communications Director update.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So to start off my report, our 12th county newsletter is out today. It'll also run in the County Journal next week. We have active promotions right now on our open positions, specifically our Parks Director position, on many different platforms, and we're going to continue to try just so we can hopefully get more applicants. Right now, we've had about 10 applicants, and hopefully then by Ways and Means, Deputy Controller Dawson will have a nice update for you that we've received several more. In your packet, you'll also see a mock-up of some general flyers that we had printed for some events. These talk about government services and how the Board of Commissioners work and how to find your commissioner. This is just a really good way for us to get the information out around, what does Eaton County actually offer its residents. We also have versions of these that are district-specific, but we can't print. We're not going to print those professionally. The county's not going to pay to do that, but you are more than welcome to, and so I can obviously send those off to you for review and then print. We can print a handful of them here, but it's just going to be on regular printer paper. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to me, and I can get that over to you. Also this month, expect us to start promoting the final recycling event from Resource Recovery, which is on August 10th in Charlotte again. These last two events have been huge successes. They're very happy in hitting all their metrics. And so I'm looking forward to continuing to promote those. Any questions on that before I move on? Okay. So social media, we're slowly and steadily gaining more followers and more traction, 36% increase this last month. But our content interactions have grown, and that's when folks actually interact with what we share, what we post, and who we interact with. I'm really happy to see that continue to grow, and I expect that to continue to grow. We did see a decrease in total reach, which is how many times our posts actually engaged with folks and populated their actual feed on social media, specifically on Facebook and Instagram. But we did see a massive increase in May, so I was expecting a decrease. We saw a 258% increase in May, and that was mostly because of a very heavy news month, as well as the Crandall art survey that kind of went locally viral. And so we saw a massive increase. But I am very happy with our content interactions. Those that are following us are interacting with us. They're paying attention to us. They didn't just blindly follow. They actually seem to want to interact. Any questions on the social media part?
No questions.
Moving on to website. It looks similar to last month's, but we're still on track. Huge shout out to Liz, Tech Services, every month. She has been an amazing resource and soundboard for me as we work to figure out the best way to kind of refresh our website to make it more user-friendly and accessible. We made edits to their initial design concept in this very long and productive meeting. I met with Infotech as well, and we kind of walked through what made sense and what didn't. We made some big changes. And so as of June 28th, they're whole cloth designing it now, and so in the next few weeks, we should actually have something to show you all what it's actually going to look like, and then in August, we will launch that and it will go live. The county website saw just over 27,000 users in the last 30 days. This slight decrease actually caused an increase in our average user time by event. So every time they actually access something, they spend a little more time engaging with it, which is a metric we like to see. The decrease in actual users is likely from that Crandall Lake Art Survey again. That brought in 4,000 users in May. And so obviously that is not live anymore, so those users are no longer interacting. Any questions on the website stuff?
Guess not.
Okay. Media, I'll kind of breeze through this as quickly as I can here. Press in June, the Crandall Lake Dock Fire, obviously, I fielded calls from pretty much every news outlet. News 10 and 6 did the direct stories around it. It is unfortunate how that all went down, but in the end, it did bring us a lot of engagement, a lot of interaction, and the public is interested in now watching to see what actually happens. Advisory Tax Limitation Committee recommendation was covered by Fox 47. I want to give a shout out to your Eaton County Prosecutor, Doug Lloyd. He actually interviewed on WILS 1320 about that Tax Advisory Committee and their decision. Tax limitation proposal and the board action that the board actually took to place that on the November ballot. The State Journal, News 6, WKAR, and Fox 47 all covered that. Isolated storms and the heat wave. We actually, Ryan Wilkinson, Emergency Management, did a wonderful job speaking to many different outlets, sort of about cooling centers and other things to watch out for during that heat wave we had. Roads and drainage, Fox 47 reached out to me as well as the drain office. They did a story on some residential complaints around after these storms and the bad weather, some water issues. And the road commission as well as the county did speak to that. It was actually ended up being, I think, a fairly net positive, driving residents to where they can actually submit complaints or thoughts to the drain commissioner. Opioid spending, Bridge, Michigan did a large story on every county and how the opioid settlement funds are being spent and or not spent. Myself as well as Amy Delinky from Michigan Association of Counties did speak with Bridge. And then Amy Delinky as well did an op-ed in Bridge around the same week that dropped, sort of giving the county accolades on our reserved approach and our measured approach and making sure we're spending the money in the appropriate way. So that was some really nice press for us. The Sheriff's Office did an opioid overdose reversal spray. They have a new spray that they use. They interviewed with News 6, and there was a story on that as well. I was not a part of that. The corrections officer firing and then the subsequent charges from the Sheriff's Office. Several news outlets reached out to me. I did speak to them and coordinated with the Sheriff's Office. And so there was a lot of coverage on that, and I imagine some more to come. And then finally, the Lansing State Journal did do a piece on Lansing Mall security and our economic crimes unit that the prosecutor has within the Lansing Mall, as well as patrols that used to be done by contract from the Sheriff's Office with the Lansing Mall as well. They just needed some historical context that I was able to provide. And then in this last week as well, that's not listed here, the 2 court appointments by the governor. I did speak with Lansing State Journal about an hour ago, so I think they're going to do a little press on that as well. Any questions on all that? Sorry, I kind of ran through that pretty quickly.
Apparently you answered everyone's
I
question.
guess. With that Crandall Lake dock fire, we are receiving a dock donation, and Chairman, I'm not sure if you remember, I forget the company's name that is donating the dock from Charlotte. Feiner? Yes, they are donating a dock. We are going to coordinate some press around that, as well as our efforts to up security at Crandall Lake specifically. And so we thank them very, very much for that. And I'm looking forward to that positive press on that. Project updates, tax limitation proposal. You guys took action that is now on the ballot. There is going to be a big website overhaul on the informational side of that, as well as a lot of information going out to residents at whether that be in-person events, municipal meetings, as well as just general wherever they access information. That will happen in earnest in a much bigger way than it's already started, but it'll be much more pronounced after the August primary. that's kind of the main thrust of when we're going to really push that information out. But we've already had a lot of discussions and interactions with residents from email as well as online. A lot of it positive, some not so positive, but we're getting the information out there, and it's going to really pick up pace. Bank Intercounty Drain, the last part of my report here. As you recall, we lobbied and applied for different funding from state and federal agencies, as you may have seen, and I sent an email out. The state has secured $5 million for that project for us. And then, although this has to still go through the federal budget process, we're looking at $6 million from the federal agencies there. So that is a total of $11 million going towards that project. And so I want to thank any commissioner that wrote a letter, lobbied, helped us reach out to our representatives, and also I want to thank those representatives for really doing the work. Yes. Yes, so that, and it's estimated, and this will inevitably change, but that's going to be a $60 million project. And so the county itself, the road commission, Delta Township have substantial payments. Ingham County is a part of that, but it also falls really heavily on the residents, and so that's why we really wanted to try and alleviate as much of that as possible. So stay tuned. We're not going to know for a bit on the federal side of that, but we are excited about the progress that we made.
Okay, any questions for Logan? All right, seeing none, thank you, Logan.
Thank you.
We'll get back to you later. Eric?
Good afternoon. First item that I have here, it's actually an action item, is to go over the proposed 24-25 technology service budget summary. So what we tried to do is put together a generalized summarization of the detailed budget that we've developed, trying to break it down into primary sectors. These sectors include our cybersecurity initiatives, our internet connections, various software support contracts, our website hosting, domain names, hardware support for our various network switches, server support. These are basically contracts if a server needs to be replaced, we have it under warranty or a maintenance contract. Our wireless license subscription, this is something that we do on a 5-year rotation, so we're on, essentially coming up on year 6. So if you notice that there's a sharp increase over last year, it's because we didn't have the expenditure last year. It's a 5 or 6 year rotation when that's due. Our failed device replacement fund, we've increased that a little bit from last year just because the cost of equipment is going up. And we like to keep a little bit of money on hand when unexpected devices don't meet the replacement cycle. Training budget, that's a continuation. Overall equipment expenses, these are other planned projects that we have. I would consider this a continuation budget, even though it is a increase of cost from previous year. It's increased in a couple sectors, one being software support for vendors. Microsoft, for instance, or example, I should say, they're changing their model. And I've talked about this before at different committees. A time where you could buy a piece of software and use it for 5-6 years. They're changing that model. They want you to do an annual subscription or a multi-year subscription. So essentially, if you don't pay the subscription, you lose access to use the software. We're starting to feel that pinch now. The county, a few years ago made the investment to buy, the last iteration of that where you could buy that disk and use it for multiple years. Now security protocols, the manufacturer is not going to provide security patching for that particular piece of software. We need to move away from that. Unfortunately, it's going to come with a price. So that's one of the areas that we're seeing increased cost. The other is, again, support contracts for our virtual server environment. There was a shakeup in the industry. There was a couple corporate entities that bought out another entity, and they've changed their pricing model. they increased their costs. It kind of took us all by storm. So we're actively looking at different solutions if they fit to change, but from a budgetary perspective, I have to budget of what we need to go forward with what we have. We're in the process now of assessing if that's still the right fit for us, but just because of the timing, we need to place that budgetary number in place to continue with what we have. As far as the line item for equipment expenses, that's a big increase from last year. However, the bulk of that equipment is going into public safety, specifically in law enforcement agency cars. So that equipment that's in there, we try to do on a 4-year replacement cycle. We're coming up on year 4. This coming fall will be into year 4. So that's a scheduled replacement. Those funds will be, the bulk of the expense that you see on that line item will be paid for out of the 911 funds. So overall impact to general won't be as significant as what that number is reflecting.
Are you expecting what percentage, do you think?
I'm going to say this is probably, I don't have the complete breakdown, but I would say 70% of that number. Any questions about the budget? And we tried to try to simplify it, but if you have granular questions, I'll be happy to ask.
No questions? Well, you did a good job of explaining.
All right. But Logan, do we need an action item to make a recommendation to move this forward? I believe that's what Connie wanted.
Yeah. So we need a motion and a second.
Yeah.
So, what, do you want to move this forward? Or should we discuss it for a minute? I'll move it. Okay, do we have a second? Okay, support from Mark. Okay, now discussion.
Now, what we're doing is we're just moving this to Ways and Means, correct?
That's where the real discussion comes in.
Where the rubber meets the road.
It's, Eric has to be more prepared for that one.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, is this the budget you expected for this year, or did anything surprise you?
No, this was anticipated. So this is everything that we had planned for. We've been doing a good job the last few years of really trying to pre-plan and try to get the equipment replacement spread out over fiscal years, so we don't have such steep increase in cost. You know, all the work that we've done recently on the capital improvement fund, forecasting those out, you know, you'll see these cycles over the course of the next 5-6 years of different pieces of equipment that will be slated for replacement.
I want to ask you about the equipment expenses for the Sheriff's Department.
Mm-hmm.
What specifically are we replacing in that?
So that'll be the actual MCT, the computer that's in the car. So it's not just for the Sheriff's Department, it's for all law enforcement in Eaton County. And it also is included a new, it's called a Cradle Point modem. So it's basically the cellular connection from that device in the car to operations here at the county.
Okay, so this would cover Charlotte City Police, Grand Ledge, Eaton Rapids, all
Yes.
municipalities within the county.
Yes,
So it's not just specific to the Sheriff's Department.
that is correct.
All right. Okay, any other questions for Eric? All right, I don't see any, Eric, so there's a motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Okay, we moved it forward to Ways and Means.
Okay.
You have the floor again.
Next action item, wanted to provide you an update on the BEAD program. This was the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment. It's a federal program with applying federal funds to provide internet access to all homes and businesses throughout the country. The state of Michigan was awarded $1.5 billion as part of this overall $42.5 billion at the federal level. Michigan is actually fourth highest award for that. Number 1 being Texas, number 2 being California, number 3 being Missouri, and 4th being Michigan, receiving the 4th highest award for that. On June 28th, Michigan High-Speed Internet Office hosted a webinar kind of explaining where the BEAD process is at this point. I provided a handout of a slide deck that they presented on the 28th. So there's some good information. I'm not going to read it verbatim to you. I'll let you kind of cruise through it. But some of the highlights that I took away from it is on page 3 of this handout. You can kind of see in the different shades of color on that map. It's not the best map, I understand that. But those various shades represented on the map, with the exception of kind of the beige color, the areas that represent the majority of Michigan, those other areas are already active projects of getting high-speed internet to those parts of Michigan. Now, some of those have already been put in place, but these are all projects that have occurred over the last 10 years. The goal of BEAD is to essentially blanket fill the rest of the areas in the state of Michigan that are currently defined as un- and underserved areas for high-speed internet. Eric Frederick again reiterated on last week's meeting that he still truly believes that the state of Michigan has enough funding to accomplish that goal. And for them to consider this project being successful at all is they want to meet that goal. They want every home and business within the state of Michigan to have high-speed internet at the end of this project.
Which is when?
It's slated for 6 years. I think they have 6 years to complete that. So going into, I think it's page 5 of that slide deck, it kind of shows you the history of the BEAD program. When it kind of got kicked off in 2021, when the state of Michigan's Michigan High-Speed Internet Office was created shortly, in first quarter, early second quarter of 2021. 2022, they're hiring, Michigan High-Speed Internet Office is hiring their staff. And we get into 2024. Right now, as of Friday last week, they've actually opened up pre-registration, basically meaning that any internet service provider or any entity that wants to apply for grant funds being the BEAD grant funds, they've opened up that pre-registration for that. So they're essentially asking anybody that's going to show interest in applying for these funds, please start registering now so that they can start, sorting through the data, organizing the data, and seeing who's actually going to apply. They're not necessarily asking for project submissions at this point. That's going to come in, I believe, September, October timeframe. Once that officially is open, they're going to keep pre-registration open for another 30 days past that tentative timeline of September, October of opening up for project submissions. After that, I believe they're going to start awarding projects, they say early 2025. I'm skeptical that it'll happen that quick. I imagine they're going to be inundated with applications, for these federal dollars. But that's what the timeline trajectory is showing.
Basically, it turns it into a grant process.
100%, and that's what it is. Yep. Yep. Page 6 of the slide deck shows basically the address challenge process. I've talked about this before at previous tech committee meetings, but these shades of brown, these dots that are represented on the state of Michigan map, those are actually address points that were submitted to the Michigan High-Speed Internet Office of saying, hey, I question if this address has internet or doesn't have internet, the speed of the internet service that's currently provided there. So you can see there's a big representation of address points that were submitted to the Michigan High-Speed Internet Office for review. Now, if you kind of know geographically where Eaton County is on that map, you can see we actually submitted a lot of those points there. Not to say that all the points that are represented on this map are from Eaton County. It could have been crowdsourced from residents or other internet service providers. But we did, Eaton County as an entity, we did submit a large number of points for review for this process as well. I guess, do you have any more questions about this? I don't want to go, bore you through the entire slide deck with this.
Questions for Eric? Barb?
But I encourage all of you, if you have any more questions about that, visit the Michigan High Speed Internet Office. They have a tremendous amount of information on there. They actually have the link to the YouTube video, the recording that they did on the 28th of June that kind of went through this entire slide deck. It's really interesting to talk about, listen to them talk about the journey they've been on and what the future holds and what the application process is going to be in the selection. And I really encourage you all to look at that and, be prepared to talk to your constituents about it as well.
Okay.
There's a lot of good information there.
I got a question. Bring that down to Eaton County. Where does that put us now in this process?
So basically, it's us as an entity, we can provide letters of support if any internet service provider wishes to seek one from us. So say, we were partnered with ACD.net for the Robin Grant application. Now they can come back to us and say, hey, we would like a letter of support for our BEAD application, if we choose to do so. So basically, our big part of this BEAD process so far was doing the address challenge process of taking all of our 83,000 plus address points that we have collected and maintained here at the county, because we are the address authority for the majority of Eaton County. We provided that data set in its entirety, and we're able to get a lot of clean addresses for Michigan High Speed Internet to submit to the NTIA. But as of right now, we're kind of in a holding pattern. I don't believe Eaton County as an organization, we're not going to submit for the BEAD application or submit grant dollars. We would just be a supporting organization to anybody that we felt that fit to partner with.
Commissioner Mott.
They've been running underground for quite a while. Is this all part of this program?
So that would be part of one of the other projects that were identified on that map on page 3. So that's already an existing project that's underway to provide high-speed internet in the county, if that's what that underground boring is for. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the BEAD, any projects that are going to be funded by BEAD have not been started yet.
Oh, so this won't pay retroactive then?
What do you mean?
Well, if there's a project already underway.
Correct, yeah. So there will be no overlap of
This
projects.
is anything that's not in place as of today?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. Any other questions for Eric? All righty, I don't see any questions, so. Well, you see anything scary in this presentation?
No.
No? Well, that's a good thing.
Did not.
All right, well, thank you, Eric. All right, that moves us down to item 8, miscellaneous. Do we have any miscellaneous today?
We do not.
All right. More limited public comment? I guess not. All right, well then, if I don't hear any complaints, I move to adjourn. Thank you very much.